Hey guys, got a lot to cover today. So let's get started by letting you know that both the Triumph Bobber and the Triumph Rocket 3 have left the building. We traded those both in on a new 2023 Indian Sport Chief. Now, we really like this bike. My wife in particular loves the color of this bike, but she's not a big fan of the fairing. So the idea behind this bike was to basically turn it into a Super Chief. But the reason we chose the Sport Chief over the Super Chief directly is a few things. You just get a lot of upgrades with the Sport Chief. You get the inverted KYB forks up front, you get the piggyback Fox shocks in the back, you get dual Brembo brakes up front. None of these things are on the Super Chief. Also, my wife is not wild about the spoked wheels. I'm not really wild about the spoked wheels. The color choices on the Sport Chief were more to my wife's liking, so we're going to take that bike and basically convert it into a Super Chief over the next several videos. So think about subscribing so you don't miss out on any of that. And today what we're going to do with the Sport Chief is we're going to install a new exhaust. So let me roll the bike in, let me give you a look at the bike, and we'll go from there. Okay, so the exhaust we chose for this bike is the Freedom 2-in-1 full system. This is their Combat 2-in-1 system. It's all black. I'm not much into unboxing, so I just wanted to show you how it comes. It's in a pretty good sized box. Let's go ahead and get everything out of the box, and we'll lay it out here on the lift. Oh yeah, by the way, I got a lift. Aren't you excited? I think this will make my life a lot easier working on the two bikes, because in the past I used to use spools on the back of the sport bikes and it was pretty easy to just lift those up. But on these cruisers, there's no way to lift the bike up. So here's the lift. I don't know if you can see it actually, but we're on a lift. There's the lift. It's the old Harbor Freight lift. You know, pretty popular, pretty inexpensive, and I think it will do the trick. So let's get going on this exhaust. All right, we have the bike up on the lift. We are ready to get started. Pipes are cooled down a little bit. So I'm just gonna go through the instructions and we'll get going from here. Wow.
You should have powdered the top of your head.
You what?
You should have powdered the top of your head.
Is it shiny?
No, it's not too bad.
Okay.
We'll see halfway through the job as you get, you know, warm up a little bit, starts to sweat.
Man, those suckers are on there. You see how much tension's on them just by how they're popping.
Yeah.
Okay, those are loose.
Can you buy an electric ratchet?
I do have an electric ratchet. That is a long bolt. All right, so according to the instructions, once those are loose, once screws are out of the way, pull the rear muffler backward. Everybody says this is the hardest part. Okay. That wasn't too bad.
Oh, it took 10 seconds or so.
10 minutes. There's number 2. And clamp. So next step is take side panel off so we can get at the oxygen sensor. So let's zip these off real quick.
You want this?
Oh, please. So this is the harness right here. Well, I don't like this at all. Yeah. Can you see that in the frame?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a total pain in the butt. This little mechanism here that retains the O2 sensor plug is kind of a pain. You got to push this tab down. I don't know if you can see that, but hopefully you can. You got to push this tab down in order to slide it out of the keeper. So that took a minute. But anyway, just a note if you're installing this yourself. There's a couple little soft retainers in here that are metal that you just bend out of the way. Okay. And now the O2 sensor is free. The front oxygen sensor is just a short run right here, and it just runs right into this little harness right here, which is going to be the same kind of pain in the butt to get out. Right in here is where the oxygen sensor wire goes, and it's clipped in right here, so we're just going to nip that off. Okay. So it's right here in this keeper here. So I'm going to try and get it out of there, and we'll see how it goes. So this one was a total pain in the ass. Had to basically force this out of its keeper. So hopefully that's not a problem, because I kind of mangled it a little bit. But it goes in this hole right here. But the wire's free now, so that's the front O2 sensor, and it's free. So we're ready to move on to the next step. All right, so the next step is going to be taking off the brake and peg assembly. I'm going to take out, this is an 8mm socket. I'm going to, or 8mm hex, take those two out, these two bolts here, and then we're just going to set it aside, so that just gives us room to get at the front header for that. And then I think you just want to be careful with this because you know, try and keep it as level as you can. Okay. There we go, there's one. Okay. There's one. There's two. Okay. So what we're going to do, I think I'm just going to tie it up to this strap. All right, so there's not a lot of slack once you pull this off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie this to the strap just to kind of hold it up so it doesn't flop around. Okay, that should hold it out of the road. And we're on to the next step. Well, I'm going to take this heat shield off. so there's a heat shield.
Not near as pretty.
No.
Bet you it sounds great right now.
I bet it does.
I'd be a little late, but you could have just snipped them. Hose clamps are cheap.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to.
Okay. Okay, so I've got the heat shields off. I've got all the O2 sensors disconnected. The next step is to actually pull the header bolts or the nuts off of the studs on the headers. And then we should just be able to pull the pipes right up. All right, and there are the headers. Now, are these gaskets?
Do you reuse those though?
I don't know if these are gaskets. Usually it's just a ring that sits on the header, but I don't see rings, so I'm assuming these are the gaskets. Okay, next step is to remove the O2 sensors. So let's see how this goes. Oh, they're not on there that hard. They look about the same length, so I want to make sure I get the right.
That's the front one.
This is the front. You want to be careful to keep any debris out of that sensor there too. So they're not in there very tight. So okay. All right. So the O2 sensors are out. Off to the next step. All right. So got the headers off. The next thing I have to remove this. This is the old exhaust assembly, or the exhaust mounting assembly. And it's well powder coated, so it kind of looked like part of the frame, but I didn't realize this is just one big giant piece of metal. Oh, that is a big screw. So, I don't think we're reusing any of this. That's a pretty hefty piece of metal right there. Okay, so the next step is putting this bracket on. It goes in this orientation, to the best of my knowledge. Anyway, so we're gonna thread this on by hand, just to get it there. Okay, so we'll just get these hand tight for now. Luckily, they thread right in, no problem. So those are hand tight. We're gonna wanna make sure we get those tightened properly. And we'll move on to the next step. Okay, we've got the mounting bracket secured. The next step is to install these adapters for the O2 sensors. If you're using a wideband O2 sensor, which I'm not, you wouldn't put these in, but I'm using the stock sensor, so I'm gonna go ahead and put these adapters in. And they should just thread in, hopefully. Oops. Ugh. These are very awkward. Okay. Okay, so I have the adapters in. They were kind of hard to get in. At least to get them started, they feel like they're going to cross thread. So just go really slow with it, and then once you get it started, you're going to need a wrench to kind of turn it. I did put some anti-seize on the threads too, just as some extra information. And they say you should put anti-seize on these threads when you're putting in the oxygen sensor, but you want to be really careful that you don't get any contamination into this point of this O2 sensor because it will cause errors in your bike. So we're going to take our time. I'm probably just going to go ahead and do this and I'll show you when it's done. But I'm going to put anti-seize on these threads very daintily and then we're going to thread them in. So I've got the O2 sensors installed. The next step is actually to put the pipes on. So we're going to be starting with the front pipe is going to go in, and then we'll rotate in the back pipe. So start here. Whoops,
There we go.
gotta clear that. Okay.
There we go on there.
In. Okay, first one's on. Okay, they are all started. All right, so pipes effectively on at this point. Okay, so the pipes are just finger tight. The headers are finger tight. Next, I gotta insert this plate that's gonna go into the back of the pipe here. There's a little sleeve that it slides in, and then these bolts are gonna screw into it. So next step is to tighten the flange bolts. I'm going to torque these to 12 pounds. That's the best torque spec I could find, well, 12.5 pounds. I think they're probably 14 or 15, but we're gonna go with 12 and then I'll check it for leaks. Okay, so then the last thing is just to tighten these. It's solid. Okay, I ain't going anywhere. All right. So, just gonna clean up the pipes with alcohol before I put on the heat shields. I'm sure, and then we're gonna reconnect the O2 sensors where they need to be. Then we're almost done. We just gotta put the heat shields on, and I think the hard stuff's, well, the harder stuff is over. The heat shields will probably suck too, so. Matter of putting things back together, then we'll work on the heat shields, which is probably gonna be the hardest part of this job. And then we'll go from there, and then we'll get her started. Putting these heat shields on, it wasn't too hard, but if you have these black pipes, they scratch super easy. And these, the way you have to mount these band clamps, there's no way you're not gonna scratch them. So I've got some scratching. It's not too bad. But right now, it's done. So I'm gonna wipe these down with alcohol so we don't have any, get all the oil off of them so they don't, fingerprints and stuff doesn't burn into the pipes. I did forget one thing. I gotta put the brake assembly back on, so we're gonna do that right now. It's just 2 bolts, and I think we're done. So, all right. Okay, so it's ready to go. We're gonna start it on the lift and then we'll take it off the lift and put it outside. But here's the first start. This is our first time hearing it, period. So here goes nothing. All right then, so what did you think? I love them. I think this bike is the best sounding bike we've ever had, frankly. It is a little loud, but when I test rode it, it wasn't too bad. Most of the sound's behind you, so I'm not too worried about it on the interstate. But we'll see how it holds up, and maybe we'll add a quiet baffle down the road as we transition it to become more of a touring bike. So if you have any questions about the install or any questions about the bike, let me know down in the comments, and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future videos. We've got a lot more coming up on the Indian Pursuit. We've got a lot more coming up on this bike. And so I'm really looking forward to bringing those to you. So as always, guys, thanks for watching.